Alright, so as a continuation with our discussion for equity securities, investment in equity securities, we're already done with the basic concepts and we're already done with sample problem 1, which is referring to equity securities FBT PL. But as a short recap with regards to the basic concepts in relation to equity securities, we have discussed basic concepts about the business model applicable for equity securities. We have FVTPL and FVTOCI. FVTPL being the default, tawag doon, being default business model. Otherwise, FVTOCI applies if there is a an irrevocable election. So when does irrevocable election should be done? It must be at the date of transaction. Okay, the moment that we have acquired the investment. Now, in relation to FVTPL, uh, FVTPL and FVTOCI both are subject to fair value changes, which means that at year end, we're going to measure our investment at fair value. So we have to look for any changes in the fair value at year end. In relation specifically with FVTPL, we have it all gains and losses will be presented to profit or loss statement, whether it is holding or realized gains or losses or realized gains or losses. Basta lahat ng losses, all losses and gains, nandun yan sa profit or loss statement. Whereas under FBTOCI model, only, wala, yeah, only the unrealized gains or losses or holding gains or losses will be presented in other comprehensive income statement. But the realized gains or losses, yung realized mismo when we are disposing or selling our uh, financial asset or our equity securities, meaning we are derecognizing our equity securities, the realized gains or losses will not be presented to OCI. However, yung unrealized gains or losses or yung holding gains or losses will be presented to both OCI and equity section of the statement of financial position. Okay? So, I have given you, tawag nito, the sample problems as your assignment. So, I hope you have with you your solutions, your calculators, and your ball pens for those who haven't solved yet. Pero I hope meron para smooth yung ating discussion. Now, sige, without further ado, wow, parang ano lang, may presentation without further ado. Wow. So, sige, sample problem 2, equity securities regarding FVTOCI. So, the same structure of problem, purchase purchase cost or the transaction price is 1,500,000 for the equity securities to be accounted for FBT OCI, fair value through other comprehensive income, meaning non-trading purpose. Then we have broker's fees. Take note of the treatment of the broker's fees when it comes to FBT OCI. We have a different treatment under FBTPL. So we're already accounting for FBT OCI. Then we're provided with fair value for both 2020 and 2021. We have 1,650,000 and 1,725,000 respectively. So we're given with 5 requirements. So let us start 2, 3, and 4 before we proceed with requirement 1 and requirement 5. Okay. Now, okay, let's start ha. Requirement 2, compute the balance of equity securities on December 31, 2020 and 2021. So let us start with requirement 2, 2021. 2020. Okay? What is the balance of our equity securities December 31, 2020? You can have it in the chat box. All right. So I am seeing answers. Okay. So as evidence, you have applied the concept. So that's correct. The answer is 1,650,000. Since again, based on concept, whether fair value to profit or loss or OCI, we're going to measure it, the equity securities, at fair value. The only difference is in the presentation of the fair value change, which is the unrealized gain or loss. Okay? So that's it. For number 2, 2020, requirement 2, year 2020, it is 1,650,000, the fair value. Next, what about 2021? What is the balance of our equity securities for 2021? Mhm. Okay. So the same thing, look for the fair value. So the present fair value there is 1,725,000, or the available fair value is 1,725,000 for 2021. Okay? So we have answers already for requirement 2. Okay? So again, requirement 2, 2020 is 1,650,000, and for requirement 2, 2021 is 1,725,000. Now let's proceed with requirement 3. Requirement 3 is requiring for other comprehensive income statement amount, or the value or the amount to be presented in other comprehensive income statement. Meaning it is referring to fair value changes. Okay? Usually we refer it is referring to fair value change. We don't have any information regarding dividend income. Should there be tawag nun, dividend income, you will consider where to present the amount of dividend income. But we all know when it comes to dividend income, nasa ano yan, nasa profit or loss statement. Wala namang information dyan. So, requirement 3 will be referring to the fair value changes. Okay, before I ask with the amount to be presented in OCI, let me ask you first the original cost of the asset or the equity securities on January 1, 2020. How much is the total cost of the acquired equity securities? Take note that we are already accounting for FVTOCI. So, any information for transaction cost, okay? You have to consider whether it is part or not part. When to consider if broker fees will be considered part of the original cost or not of the equity securities. So I'm seeing answers, majority of the answers. Magkano? How much will be debited to investment in equity securities for FVTOCI? So majority of the answers presented is 1,600,000. 1,500,000 is correct if we are referring to FVTPL. But since we are referring to FVTOCI, what will prevail is 1,600,000. Therefore, 100,000 broker fees will form part of the tawag nito, the original cost or the total cost for the for acquiring the equity securities. 1,500,000 will serve as the transaction price, then broker fees as transaction cost added to the 1,500,000. So I hope it is clear. Okay? Do not forget the initial measurement for FVTPL and FVTOCI. They only differ in the treatment of the transaction costs. All right. So now that we have answer for the original cost, let us go back with requirement 3. Requirement 3, amount to be presented in other comprehensive income statement for 2020 in relation to fair value changes. How much would that be? Bibilis. Ang bibilis nyo. So you already have an answer. So I'm seeing answers. 50,000. Okay. So we compute 50,000 by comparing 1,600,000 with 1,650,000 for 2020. So that's an increase. How do we describe 50,000? Guys, you can have it or for unrealized gain, you can have UG, unrealized loss UL para hindi na para hindi na mahaba yung pag ano nyo, pag type. Okay, so 50,000 is referred to as unrealized gain. Correct. Why unrealized gain? It is because there is an increase in the fair value. So 1,600,000 will serve as the fair value at the date of acquisition, which is January 1, 2020. Now, from 1,600,000, it increased to 1,650,000. So therefore, 50,000 is considered as unrealized gain. All right. So for number 3, 2020, we have an answer, 50,000 unrealized gain. How about for 2021? How much is the amount to be presented in OCI? Ang bilis yung sumagot. Parang, it's like may raffle. May raffle draw. Okay, but that's a good thing. It means nagsagot kayo. Alright. So that's 75,000. How did we compute 75,000 then? How did we compute 75,000? Alright. It is the 1,000,000 uh 725,000 versus the 1,650,000. Take note that the 1,650,000 ending amount for 2020 will be the beginning amount or carrying amount for 2021. So from 1,650,000, it increased or rose up to 1,725,000. So the difference is 75,000. How do you describe 75,000? Ayun. Okay. Since it rose up to 1,725,000, that means the difference of 75,000 is unrealized gain. Very good. Always take note that when we refer to the amount to be presented in OCI, it is always referring for the current year only. That's why, if you can recall last meeting, I keep on reminding you or refreshing you the concept when to use for and when to use as of. Because it also applies not only on the FS itself or the heading of the FS itself, but on the amount. Okay, on the amount. Okay, So we already have answer for number 3. So for 2020, we have 50,000 unrealized gain, and for 2021, 75,000 unrealized gain also. So we proceed with number 4. For number 4 is referring to the amount to be presented in other statement of financial position equity section, both 2020 and 2021. So let's start with 2020. It is referring to our AOCI. How much will be presented as AOCI in the balance sheet? Oh, bilis. Yan. So I'm seeing answers. The answer is, that's correct. The same with requirement 3 2020. For requirement 4 2020 is referring also to the amount of 50,000. Take note that 2020 is the acquisition year, therefore also the first year of computation of the unrealized gains or losses due to fair value changes. So yan. So 50,000 is recognized as unrealized gain. Yan. Unrealized gain kasi nga two presentation, OCI and equity section. Since it is gain to OCI, it is also a gain to equity section. Alright. What about 2021? How much will be presented in equity section for 2021? Requirement for 2021. How much will be presented in the equity section of statement of financial position? Take note, in 2020, it is the first year computation. So that means both unrealized gain of both OCI and OCI will have 50,000 unrealized gain. In 2021, we have 75,000 unrealized gain, but it is referring only for the current year 2021. What about the amount to be presented in equity section for 2021? Referring to our OCI. Alright, so I'm seeing answers. Alright, so answers that I'm seeing is 125,000. How did we arrive 125,000? Yon. Someone said, Alina said, 120, original cost of 1,600,000 versus fair value ending of 1,725,000. Okay, so that's first correct solution. What about other solution for that? We have two solutions for that. What's the other solution for the computation of 125,000? Okay, that's correct, Sandra. It's 50,000 plus 75,000. So those are the figures presented in requirement 3, 2020 and 2021. Now, 125,000 is the answer, so that's correct. How do we describe 125,000? What's the description of 125,000 amount in AOCI? As AOCI rather. Okay, all right. Yon. So it's unrealized gain. So 2020 had unrealized gain and 2021 unrealized gain. So combined like terms, we'll have 125,000 as unrealized gain. So we proceed with requirement 1. Requirement 1 is is asking rather, required journal entries for both the year 2020 and 2021. So again 1,500,000 plus 100,000, that would be debited to our investment account and credit cash. So 2020, January 1, 2020, debit investment and equity securities, FVTOCI, credit cash of 1,600,000. Then referring to the um, unrealized gain for 2020, that is again the difference of 1,600,000 and the fair value in December 31, 2020, which is 1,650,000. So that would be debited to investment in equity securities and credit unrealized gain OCI for 50,000. This entry is to signify an increase in the value of our investment. Same goes with December 31, 2021. There's also an increase of 75,000. So we debit investment in equity securities and credit unrealized gain OCI for 75,000. Now, for this computation, okay, requirement 2 referring to the balance of equity securities 2020, 1,650,000. Then for 2021, that would be 1,725,000. For requirement 3 referring to the unrealized gain, it is 50,000 for 2020 in OCI, while 2021 it is 75,000 gain in OCI. Okay, unrealized gain. For requirement 4, ayan. Requirement 4 2020 and requirement 3 2020 will have the same amount of 50,000. Since again 2020 is the first year of the computation or fair value change. Okay? Then for 2021, it is simply the difference of the original cost of 1,600,000 and the December 31, 2021 fair value. Why did I designate it as fair value here? Because in fact, the 1,600,000 is a fair value at the date of acquisition. That fair value also serves as the original cost. Okay? So 125,000. Alternatively, we can compute this 125,000 as the unrealized gains in 2020 and 2021 combined. So that is unrealized gain, OCI, of 125,000. Now let's go back with requirement 5. Requirement 5 is referring to the required journal entries in selling the equity securities assuming it was sold in January 1, 2022 for gross selling price of 1,800,000 and transaction cost incurred of 10,000. So how do we solve our requirement 5? Ito yung solution natin. Gross selling price or cash proceeds of 1,800,000 less transaction cost incurred 10,000. Our net selling price or cash proceeds will be 1,790,000. So this is the amount to be debited to cash, the 1,790,000. Then the net cash proceeds will be compared with the carrying value at FVTOCI 1,725,000. Difference is gain on sale. If the term is already like gain on sale, that would mean it is already a realized gain. Okay, realized gain 65,000, so it will be credited. The concept of crediting to retained earnings is that under PFRS 9, it is not directly stated that it must be credited to retained earnings. It is stated there that it must be closed directly or reported directly to equity section. However, in all equity accounts, um, we use retained earnings because we cannot use the share capital account, either preferred or common share. Hindi naman natin yung i-credit doon. Also, we do not credit the gain on sale on the share premium because it is not in fact. Okay? Not in fact a share premium. It is not also credited to a revaluation surplus account because it is not referring to revaluation of asset. Increase in the revaluation of the increase in the asset due to revaluation. It will not be also credited to ano pa ba? Reserve because it is not a reserve. So among equity accounts, shareholder equity accounts, um, mas proper si retained earnings. Other name for retained earnings is accumulated profits or loss. But it is not the same with profit or loss statement. Profit or loss statement is an income statement while retained earnings or accumulated profits or loss is an equity account. Okay? But I'm fond of using retained earnings kasi. Okay, mas gusto ko 'yon, yung retained earnings. Okay, so that's the reason why we credit retained earnings. Then again, in relation to sale of FVTOCI equity securities, the balance of the unrealized gain, uh, which serve as our OCI, which is the 125,000, what is provided in PFRS 9 is that any balance of accumulated or cumulative gains or loss in equity section referring to the FVTOCI will be closed. Okay? It will be closed to doon pa rin sa equity section. But the reason for closing is that since we already eliminated the asset, which is the equity securities, the account unrealized gain in statement of financial position, which is in the equity section, will be eliminated and the amount will be reclassified into another equity account. For example, again, retained earnings. Why retained earnings? Because again, same reason or same explanation with the gain on sale of 65,000. Only retained earnings is the most appropriate account. Most na appropriate pa. Kaya appropriate account to use for the uh, tawag doon, reclassification of 125,000. Okay? Were you able to catch up, guys? Kindly raise hand. Mhm. Okay. Now, before we move forward, before we move on to sample problem 3, let me ask you this one. I'll be asking you three questions. Okay, three questions. You have to answer me through chat box. If I ask you, okay, here's the first question. If I ask you the amount of unrealized gain or the amount of realized, okay, take note, amount of realized gain or loss due to sale in requirement 5, magkano kaya? Magkano ang sagot? How much is our realized gain or loss? Take note my question na, I am referring to the realized gain or loss. I'm not asking to as to the presentation or whatnot. Basta, I'm just only asking the amount of realized gain or loss for requirement 5. Anong sagot? Magkano yung sagot? Okay. The answer is clear. Nandyan na sa solution. We have a solution. 65,000. In fact, it is a realized gain. Nandyan na guys. Napresented na 65,000. Yan na yan. Gain on sale is referring, this account, yan, yung naka-highlight, ito yan, it is referring to the realized gain. Yung 65,000 is a realized gain. When I ask you, with the amount of realized gain or loss, sagot nyo dapat 65,000. Kasi in fact, tama naman yun. Okay? Nahabol? Kindly raise hand. Take note ha. Realized gain as a result of the sale is 65,000. Yun lang yung question ko. Okay, yun, doon pa lang yung question ko. I'm not yet referring to presentation. Okay? Now, so meron na tayong sagot for the first question. Okay, the amount of realized gain or loss, 65,000, which is a realized gain. What about if I rephrase my question? I would say, or I would ask, the amount of realized gain or loss in profit or loss statement. How much is our realized gain or loss in profit or loss statement as a result of sale in requirement 5? Magkano kaya? Again, yung first question, nagtanong lang ako ng realized gain. May nagsagot ng 65,000, which is correct. Nirephrase ko yung question. Ginawa kong realized gain or loss to be presented in profit or loss statement. Magkano kaya yung realized gain or loss sa profit or loss statement? Alright, so for number 2, I already started asking the amount in relation to presentation. Profit or loss na eh. Okay? Merong nagsagot, 0. Somebody, some people answered 0. Okay. 0, I will consider 0 as correct. Because in fact, the answer is 0. My question is, why 0? The answer is 0. Why 0? Based on the journal entry that I presented in requirement 5, are you seeing an account that would refer to profit or loss statement? Yes, tama naman. Tama naman na unrealized gain or loss will be close to retained earnings kasi lahat naman talaga yan mapupunta sa equity section. Okay? Mapupunta sa equity section. But ano yung reason? Bakit 0? Ay, Kayla, may entry tayo. Hindi no entry. Ay, char. Ayun. Correct. It is also related to non-recycling. Yan. Pero secondary yung non-recycling. Okay, the first reason why no profit or loss. Okay, why no profit or loss? Kasi yung requirement ng PFR, sinabi ko na kanina actually, yung requirement ng PFRS 9, yung realized gain, okay, is credited or closed to equity section. Kaya nga yung entry natin is credit to retained earnings. Okay? Nagets? Why zero to profit or loss? Kindly raise hand. Take note of that. I will be asking it also later with the rest of the problems. Are you seeing the difference of the first two questions? Yung first question, I am referring to the realized gain or loss. May sagot, 65,000. Pero sa second question, I asked for the realized gain or loss, this time accompanied with profit or loss. Kasi I am also asking to refer the amount in profit or loss statement. Sagot nyo 0, which is correct. Now, for the third question, how much is the realized gain or loss for to other comprehensive income statement? Kanina, profit or loss, 0. What about OCI? OCI statement. How much is the realized gain or loss in OCI statement? Bakit may 190? Bakit may 65,000? Ayun. May nakakuha rin. Okay. Yung sagot ni Christine, 0. Okay? Yung answer, guys, is 0. Why 0? Sir, bakit 0, 0 ulit? Okay, 0. 0 sa OCI, kasi yung reason, it is already reclassified to retained, to equity section. Okay? Equity section. Nandun na. Diretso na tayo sa retained earnings. Kindly refer to the first entry. Ito yung rini-refer ko na entry. Ayan. Question, may OCI ba na entry dyan? For gains or loss? Di ba wala? Ayan. So, 0. Whether profit or loss or OCI for realized gain ng FBT OCI, you do not present any realized gain or loss sa profit or loss or OCI statement. Kasi ano yung requirement? To equity section. Okay? So, anong equity section? Ang possible, retained earnings. Okay? So, yan. Take note ha. It may or may not apply also to debt securities. Sa debt securities, may mga pasabog pa doon. So, dito lang muna tayo sa equity securities. Maybe next meeting, Wednesday or Thursday, di ko lang alam kasi bukas baka meron kaming may schedule ata. Di pa naman ako sure. So, sige. Nagets, bakit 0 si OCI? Kindly raise hand. Okay, I'll make it clear ha. I'll make it clear. If I'm only asking for the amount of realized gain or gain or loss on sale, Meron, 65,000. My question is not referring to the presentation. I am referring to the amount resulted in the sale. Meron yan. Kasi yung may difference ang net cash proceed at saka carrying value. In fact, may 65,000 talaga. Pero as to presentation in profit or loss or OCI, zero. Why zero? Hindi naman kasi sa profit or loss or OCI nakapresent. Retained earnings ang credit eh. Meaning, equity section. Okay? So sige, let's move forward with problem 3. Sample problem 3 is also referring to FVTOCI. Magkaiba nga lang ang figures presented. So yan, still at FVTOCI, the same requirements. Our purchase price is 1,400,000. There's still broker fees and we're provided with fair values. Let us start with requirement 2, then 3, then 4 before we proceed with requirement 1. How much is the balance of our equity securities on December 31, 2020 for requirement 2? Mhm. Okay. Ang bilis. Parang raffle lang. Or parang nagano lang ako, nagla-live. Send star. Subscribe. Ang bilis. Ang daming daming star. 1,440,000 yung stars. Joke lang. So that's correct. 1,440,000. Again, we refer to the fair value at year end. What about 2021? Mhm. Okay. So you're getting it now. That's correct. We have 1 million. Okay, we have the 1,360,000 fair value sa 2021 year end. Very good. So we already have an answer for requirement 2. Next, requirement 3. Compute the amount. Wait. What is our original cost or the total cost upon acquisition? Mhm. All right. So you're able to catch up already. So transaction cost is always added to the transaction price. So meaning 1,500,000 is the total cost at acquisition date. So that's it. Now we go back with requirement 3. The amount to be presented in other comprehensive income statement for 2020 as a result of fair value changes. Magkano yung OCI amount natin for 2020? Mhm. How did we compute 60,000? Oh, yun. Original cost versus fair value of 1,440,000. Very good. So meaning there is a decrease from 1,500,000, it falls down to 1,440,000. Oh my gosh, guys, this is a milestone. Kanina, sa morning, I kept on using rows up. Okay, rose up. Tapos, nung nag-decrease, hindi ko na nalaman yung kabaliktaran ng rose up. Falls down pala. Ay, oh my gosh. Ano today? 2021. So, I'll mark February 21, 2022 as ano? As milestone. Hindi ko kasi talaga kaya na maisip yung iti-term pag bumaba. Naisip ko lang rose up kasi increase. Paano yung decrease? Wala akong naisip na iba. So ngayon lang pumasok, falls down pala. Alright, patalastas lang yon. So it falls down to 1,440,000. How do we describe 60,000? Ayun. Okay. So in comparison with sample problem 2, this time the result is unrealized loss. Okay, the result is unrealized loss. Very good. Okay, next, for number 3, 2021, the amount of OCI. Okay, the amount to be presented in OCI. Okay. How do we describe 80,000? 80,000 is correct. Ooh, the same amount. The same amount, the same description. Unrealized loss. Because from 1,440,000, it falls down to 1,360,000. Very good. So we already have an answer for requirement 3. Ayan. How about requirement 4? Let's start with requirement 4. The amount to be presented in equity section for 2020. Okay. So the same thing or the same amount with December 31, 2020 OCI. Since 2020 is again the first year of computation of the unrealized gains or loss, that would mean that OCI and the OCI will have the same figures of 60,000. 60,000 earlier, we define it as unrealized loss. What about 2021? How much for 2021? $140,000. Your answers are 140,000. How did we arrive 140,000? Ay, excited si Mayjoy. Excited siya. Okay, so again, we have two competitions presented. Original cost of 1,500,000 versus fair value ending of 1,360,000. Or we have it 60,000 plus 80,000. Okay? Napansin din ni Sandra. Plus pala. Correction. Correction. Asterisk. Naku, hindi matag yung ano, yung message, yung chat. Okay, sige, that's correct. 60,000 plus 80,000, 140. Now, how do we describe 140,000? Ayan. Correct. Unrealized loss. Because in 2020, we have unrealized loss for 2021 and realized loss also. So combined like terms, so 140,000 is also unrealized loss. All right. So to discuss our requirement 1, the required journal entries. So again, that would be 1,500,000 amount at acquisition date. So that would be debited to investment in equity securities, FVTOCI. Then credit cash, 1,500,000. Then for the unrealized loss for 2020 and 2021, we debit unrealized loss and credit investment in equity securities to signify the decrease in the value of the equity securities at year end due to fair value measurement. So for 2020, we have again 60,000 and for 2021, we have 80,000. All right. So here's our computation. At year end, requirement 2, 2020, 1,440,000 and 2021, we have 1,360,000. For requirement 3, 2020 is 60,000 unrealized loss, while 2021 is 80,000 unrealized loss. Both have decreased in the value. While for requirement 4, ayan, compare with the original cost of 1,500,000. 2020, since it is the first year of operation, computation, the same amount of 60,000 as a OCI this time. But for 2021, it is 140,000. Alternatively, we have it 60,000 and 80,000 combined unrealized loss for 2020 and 2021. So that is 140,000 also. Okay, so we go back with requirement 5. Requirement 5 is referring to sale sa January 1, 2022. Selling price is 1,300,000 and 15,000 transaction cost. So here's our solution. Gross selling price or cash proceed 1,300,000. Transaction cost incurred is 15,000. So net selling price or cash proceeds is 1,285,000. Carrying value is the amount as of December 31, 2021. So that would be 1,360,000. This time we have a loss on sale. In problem 2, we have gain on sale because char, sa kanino lang. Ay, it is a gain because we have received net cash proceed, we have received more than what we have disposed, which is kanina magkano yun? 1,725. Our net selling price kanina is 1,790. This time we have net cash proceed or net selling price of 1,285, which is less than what we have disposed of 1,360,000. Kaya loss. Okay? So 1,285,000, that's a debit to cash. 1,360,000, that's a credit to investment in equity securities, FVTOCI. 1,360,000, and the difference will be debited to retained earnings, 75,000. Then the amount of unrealized loss in equity section will be transferred or reclassified to equity section account. This time, we'll use again retained earnings. So 140,000. Alright. Same thing kanina. If I ask you the amount of unrealized gain or loss, not unrealized, realized gain or loss, magkano ang realized gain or loss as a result of the sale? How much is the realized gain or loss as a result of the sale in requirement 5? Yun. Correct. 75,000. Sige. I'll rephrase my question. That would be yung pang second question na. Okay? What about the realized gain or loss in profit or loss statement. Okay. Zero. Correct. What about the realized gain or loss in other comprehensive income statement? Okay. So, zero. Okay? Basta guys, ito lang, what I'm trying to emphasize that if you are asked with the amount of realized gain or loss on sale, mayroon talaga yung amount. But as to presentation, dun siya nagiging zero. Okay? Whether profit or loss or OCI. Pero sa equity section, paraging meron sa equity section. Yan yung loss on sale. Or kanina, gain on sale. Okay? So you're getting the hang of it. So last problem. Last problem. The same assumption, other comprehensive income, FBTO sa A pa rin, different figures lang this time. Our purchase cost or transaction price this time is 1 million. Still have broker fees of 100,000. Fair value, we have 1,400,000 and 1,200,000 respectively in 2020 and 2021. Let us start with requirement 2. The balance of equity securities in 2020. Mhm. Bilis. Ayan. Okay? So, 1,400,000 yung fair value. Next, what about yung sa 2021? Ay, di po nga ako natatapos. May sagot agad. Di po nga ako natatapos sa sabi ng 2021. Naalala ko tuloy yung sabi ng teacher ko. Dapat kayo, sabi ng teacher ko noong nung high school ako, third year kami. Sabi niya, dapat, pag tinatanong ka, kahit hindi pa kayo tinatanong, meron na kayo dapat sagot. Sabi ko, huhu, ano yun? Di pa alam yung question, dapat may sagot na. Uy, bago yan ah. So, okay, that's correct. 1,200,000. So, we already have an answer for requirement 2. What about requirement 3? Before requirement 3, magkano yung ating acquisition cost in total? Magkano yung original cost? Yun. So, take note ha. Get the hang of including transaction cost as part of the original cost of the equity securities at FBT OCI. So, sige, go back with requirement 3. The amount to be presented as in OCI for 2020 due to fair value change. Bilis. Okay, how do we describe 300,000? 300,000 is correct. So from 1,100,000, it rose up to 1,400,000. So a difference of 300,000, it is referred to as unrealized gain. So for number 3, 2020, unrealized gain of 300,000. What about 2021? Oh, sana all may mo sagot. Okay. 200,000. 200,000 is correct. How do we describe 200,000 this time? Yun. So from 1,400,000, it falls down to 1,200,000. Yun. Unrealized loss of 200,000. Okay. So moving on with requirement 4. Requirement 4, amount as a OCI in equity section for 2020. Okay, so the same concept. Since 2020 is the first year of competition, a OCI and the OCI will have the same amount, which is yung 300,000 earlier as unrealized gain. So that's correct, 300,000. What about 2021? Mm-hmm. How did we arrive at 100,000? Yun. So we compare original cost of 1,100,000 and the fair value ending in 2021 of 1,200,000. So there is an increase of 100,000. Or we can have it 300,000 minus 200,000. Pwede yun, minus. How do we describe 100,000? Bumawi si Kayla. Okay. Unrealized gain. Take note, in 2020, it is unrealized gain. Then in 2021, it is unrealized loss. Unrealized gain siya, okay, of 100,000 because 300,000 is greater than, 300,000 unrealized gain is greater than the 200,000 unrealized loss. Okay? Parang ano, parang, di ba sa ano, di ba sa math? Eh, di ba sa math, um, pwede ang combined like terms pero hindi pwede ang unlike terms. Pero sa accounting, okay, kasi si accounting is more than math. Okay, more than math. So, kahit hindi like terms, i-combine pa rin natin. But the rule is, what dominates shall dominate. Okay? What dominates shall dominate. So, unrealized gain. Why unrealized gain? Unrealized gain in 2020 of 300,000 is greater than the unrealized loss of 200,000 in 2021. Kaya, yung composition ng ating OCI sa 2021 na 100,000 is 300,000 gain in 2020 and unrealized loss of 200,000 in 2021. So that's correct. It's unrealized gain. So now, we proceed with requirement 1. So that would be 1,100,000 debited to investment and equity securities so January 1, 2020, and credit to cash. Okay, 1,100,000. Then for 2020, there is unrealized gain. We debit investment in equity securities, FVT, OCI, then credit unrealized gain, OCI of 300,000. This is to signify an increase in the value of the equity securities. But to December 31, 2021, there's a decrease. Okay? So the entry is debit unrealized loss and we credit investment in equity securities, 200,000. So it's our solution for requirement 2. So 2020 will have 1,400,000 and 2021 1,200,000. For requirement 3, 2020 will have 300,000 as OCI amount, while 2021 will have 200,000 as OCI amount. 2020 is unrealized gain, 2021 unrealized loss. For requirement 4, ayan. Requirement 4, 2020, OCI will have the same amount with OCI of 300,000 gain, unrealized gain. But for 2021, that would be also a gain, but net. Okay? As an alternative computation, it is the net of the unrealized gain OCI in 2020 and unrealized loss OCI in 2021. So that is a net unrealized gain of 100,000 for 2021. Going back with requirement 5. For requirement 5, it is asking about the required journal entries on the sale sa January 1, 2022 for 1,500,000 and 25,000 transaction cost. Sige. Okay. How much is our net selling price? Based on the problem, how much is our net selling price? For requirement 5. Net selling price. Okay. So that would be 1,500,000 minus 25,000. So we have 1,475,000. How much is our carrying value? Yon, yung 1.2 million. What about our, how much is the difference? Ay, oh, ang bilis. Di mo ako nakapagsalita. Okay, ang sagot agad. Ang excited talaga ninyo. Okay, so the difference is 275,000. How do we describe 275,000? Gain on sale. Okay? Guys, wala na tayong unrealized gain dito. Realized na yan. Gain on sale or realized gain. Yan. That's correct. 275,000 is realized gain. Okay, so that's the realized gain. What if I ask you the amount to be presented in profit or loss statement? Realized gain or loss? Magkano? Profit or loss statement, to be presented in profit or loss statement, magkano? Yun. 0. What about in OCI? Hey, what about OCI? Yun. Correct. 0 din. So here's our solution. The 1,475,000 will be debited to cash. 1,200,000 credited to investment in equity securities. And 275,000 to retained earnings. Then our ROCI will be close to retained earnings, 100,000. Okay, so that's it with our investment in equity securities.